Here again with you. A reminder, we had a session a little while back on insulin sensitivity. I'm a registered dietitian in practice and working in the health and fitness industry. I introduced the concept to you of insulin sensitivity, the importance of it, and importantly, how your habits and lifestyle can influence that. One of those being nutrition. So my passion for food and using it to treat things like diabetes and pre-diabetes has brought us here today into the kitchen. This is what it's all about. So a recap on that first session we had together. We spoke about how insulin works to control your blood glucose levels and the fact that certain things influence it. Some things we can control and some things that we can't. Now, the modifiable things are, one of them is your diet, and the other, your weight. By maintaining a healthy weight, we can improve your body's insulin sensitivity. And a lot of that obviously comes down to how and what you're eating. Right, and that's what we're going to talk to a little bit today. You'll remember the lock and key analogy I used. We're trying to get those locks to open a little bit easier, for the keys to fit, and for the blood glucose to move out of the blood into your cells, where your body actually wants them. Right. Now, at the heart of a healthy diet is portion control. I'm going to talk to you today about what a healthy plate looks like, what a balanced plate looks like, and how these plates and how we adjust our portions can help you to achieve a balanced or a healthy weight. Right. For some of you, that might just mean maintaining your weight. For others, it might mean losing some weight. Right. That'll all depend on you and your goals. Right. The one side of it is your exercise, which Edgar has chatted to you about, and you know how important it is to move and to be active every day. This is about how we fuel your body and put the right sorts of things in. Right. So any balanced meal should contain 4 things. Right. Before we get into what those all look like, I'll recap them with you. The first are protein-rich foods. All right. You can ask yourself now if you know what those protein-rich foods are. They can be animal or plant-based. Animal might be meat or chicken, fish, eggs, dairy products. Those are rich in protein. Right. If they're plant-based, it might be soy, lentils, legumes, beans. All of those are good plant-based sources of protein. Right. Remember those options. The second are our carbohydrate foods. Now, this would be fruit. It might be grains or starches, so rice, bread, pasta, maize meal, flours, cereals. Those are the things that provide the body with carbohydrate. Right, so remember that group of foods as well. That's also going to include added sugars. So if you're using honey or syrup, and you remember some things we touched on in the first session with that, or any sugar that you add to food or is already in it, those are all of our carbohydrate foods. Yeah, those are the first 2 groups, protein and carbohydrate. The third are our vegetables. So that's any sort of non-starchy vegetables. So potatoes and sweet potatoes we'd put as part of our carbohydrates, but most of the other things we'd group into our non-starchy vegetables. So your salad vegetables, or tomatoes and cabbage, things like that, mushrooms and green beans, and variety of things that we could all include in our non-starchy vegetables. Any vegetable that grows above ground, that's our third group. And our final group is added fats, so foods that are rich in fat, and that would be an oil or a sauce or a dressing. It might be good fats as well, like avocado and nuts and seeds and peanut butter, and those are all of our added fats. Right. If you can remember those 4 things, any meal will be a combination of those to be balanced. But how much of each of those we eat is going to determine whether you are maintaining a healthy weight and possibly whether we're able to bring your blood glucose levels down as well, and to help support the medication that you're taking. All right, so I'm going to bring up an option in front of us here, an example of what a plate looks like. And this is a meal. This is a great dinner or lunch option. And in front of me, we've got all 4 things. Plus, we've got something to drink with our meal, which is a sugar-free option. It's just some water. All right. Remember, we don't want to be consuming sugar-containing drinks. It's unnecessary. We want to hydrate, but from something that doesn't give us any energy. All right. On my plate in front of here, I've got our 4 components, and I'm going to show you how I've created this plate. And simply, when you look at a plate, or when you're dishing up your own meal, you're going to be able to put together on a plate what it should look like if you remember the 4 things and how much of each of them you should have. All right. I'm going to start with the most important. Let me rotate it slightly. Half of my plate here are my non-starchy vegetables. I've got some broccoli and courgette, and there's some green beans in there. If you had mushrooms or tomato or cabbage or salad or anything, half of my plate is made up of vegetables. All right, that's the starting point. Doesn't matter what you want, for lunch and dinner or whatever. I'll show you some other options in a bit. Half of my plate is vegetables. All right, it's plant-based. Okay, a quarter of my plate is that protein-rich food. So here I've got some beautifully grilled chicken, but that might be some fish. It might be something else, some nice lean meat. It's not a fatty option. It's a good option right there. Quarter of my plate. All right, so quarter of my plate is also the starch that I've chosen, just to have some rice here. That could be potatoes or whatever it is, but those are about the same size. Easy. Quarter plate starch, quarter plate protein, half a plate veg. Looks great. I've got a little bit of fat on this from an avocado, and that's that size there. All right, it's just a little extra. It's the smallest thing on the plate because it's very rich in energy. All right. Giving you another way to look at this, you can use your hand as well. All right. So I've got about a palm size of protein. I've got a nice cupped handful size of starch. I've got a thumb of that added fat, and I've got 2 fists worth of vegetables. The biggest thing I want on the plate. Loads of good nutrition in there, fiber, great stuff that's happening. Protein and the benefits that brings me, a nice high fiber grain. We don't have to cut it out entirely, but you'll notice I've chosen brown rice. Got a few other options of things I want here as well. Not all carbohydrates are created equal. So because it's nice and high in fiber, it's going to get into my bloodstream a little slower and give my body more of an opportunity to make the most of it. I don't have a spike in the blood glucose level, and it's also going to keep me fuller for a little bit longer. All right, that's a successful balanced plate example number 1. I'm going to show you another one. It doesn't have to be animal-based, your protein. Okay, so something that's a little bit different. I've got some beans, fantastic, really good source of protein, but loaded with fiber as well. So remember, you'll hear that word come up quite often, trying to get fiber in your diet. So for my quarter plate of protein, instead of having a meat option, a chicken option, I've got a plant-based version, which is fantastic. Everything else stays the same. Quarter plate of brown rice, half a plate of veg, and I've just showed you I'm using an oil for the fat here. So it's about a thumb size. It's just about a teaspoon. That's what we want. All right. Palm size protein, little cupped hand of starch, 2 fists of vegetables, and a thumb of fat. All right. Option number 2. The third one, it could even be a sandwich. All right, so I'm going to show you, when you're building a sandwich, you can do this as well. So we've got a quarter of a plate. It's a nice open sandwich. So it's not very high in carbohydrates. I've been able to keep that portion down because I've added some good things on top of it. My protein from some eggs, palm size, eggs, sort of palm size, cupped hand of starch, some vegetables, that's just some greens that we've got on there, and a low-fat dressing, so reduced fat mayo. Little egg mayo is great. You can still have it. It still works. But you've seen I've been able to rearrange my portions so that I can have this. And I know that I'm giving my body everything that it needs. A nice open sandwich, fantastic, great starting point. Good quality bread, high in fiber. Again, you can see it's a nice brown option instead of a slice of white bread. Okay, last option I'm going to show you here, something quick and simple, just a breakfast. All right. See if you have a look at that plate and you can tell me straight away where each of the things are coming from. All right. So protein is coming from my yogurt. Fantastic. Low-fat yogurt. It's about a palm size. It's about a quarter of my plate. All right. I've got a little bit of granola there. Not one with any dried fruit. You might be able to see that. Dried fruit, very high in sugar and carbohydrate. So kept that out. I'd rather add my own. I can control it. So a little bit of granola. I've got a thumb of nuts for my healthy fat. And I've got some beautiful fruit. Not a very heavy fruit like a banana or something that's high in sugar. Berries are fantastic. There's loads of water inside them. So melons and berries and citrus fruit are great to use when you can put some good quality nutrition on your plate, but they're not very high in sugar. Right. But I've got my distribution right again, a quarter, half, and a thumb of fat. You can do it with main meals, with breakfasts, anything that you're doing. Try and remember those 4 components. Most of it you want to get from your vegetables or a beautiful low carbohydrate fruit like your berries or melons or citrus, something like that. Quarter of your plate from a lovely lean source of protein, low fat source of protein. A quarter of a plate from a good source of carbohydrate that's high in fiber, and a thumb size of a nice healthy fat. Reevaluate your meals. Think about them perhaps today and tomorrow, over the next couple of days, how your meals fit in terms of that balance, where you can adjust it to make some improvements. And perhaps while you're tracking your blood glucose levels as well, see how changing what you do on your plate can bring down those blood glucose levels and reinforce that you're on track. Hopefully you found that useful. Guys, remember, so much of it starts here in the kitchen, and hopefully I've given you some inspiration.